Hello everyone, it's me Gavin, and today we're going to talk about the recently released Bravely Default 2 demo on the Nintendo Switch. This demo was actually just recently announced as part of a Nintendo Direct Mini, so as soon as I saw the announcement for it, I kinda lost it and I knew I had to end up downloading this to try it out myself. Bravely Default has been a series that I've been pretty much in love with ever since I first played the game on the 3DS, and I ended up playing through the original Bravely Default as well as Bravely Second multiple times. So to only say that I've been anticipating this title would be a massive understatement. So without further ado, let's get into my first impressions with the Bravely Default 2 demo. So, the first thing that you're probably wondering is, does this game still feel like Bravely Default? And I'm happy to report, yes, it does. This game is actually the exact same Bravely Default that we know and love. The same style, the same systems, the same sound, the same look. It's very much Bravely Default through and through. However, that doesn't go to say that nothing has changed with this Bravely Default game versus the prior titles. So let's start by talking about the most obvious thing, the visual upgrades. Now right off the hop, you're going to notice that the battle UI has been updated in order to accommodate the single screen of the Nintendo Switch versus the dual screens of the 3DS. This was something that was obviously going to have to be updated in order to accommodate the differing hardware between the two systems. And personally, I don't find that the changes are overly intrusive, however I do feel like a couple different aspects could be slightly adjusted to make them a little more visually appealing. But overall, it's easy to navigate, it kind of stays out of the way, and it provides you with the information that you're going to need for every aspect of battle. So moving on, let's talk about the character models as well as the enemies. Now everything here looks fine, and I really like the style that they're going for, but in some instances I've actually seen a little bit of like pixelization around certain enemies whenever they're on a certain angle in the camera, or sometimes the characters as well. For whatever reason, you just get a little bit of like graininess around the edges, and I don't know if it's just on my own experience, but that's one thing that I did notice while I was playing through this. And hopefully it's something that will be addressed when they actually release the final version of this game, because this is just a demo after all, and it very well could be polished. So moving right on, let's talk about the environment. As you can tell if you've been paying attention to the footage I've been showing off, it's very, very vibrant. There's a lot of different details as well in the textures of the map and everything that actually shows off like sand blowing across the desert, and you actually get to see the waves being animated very beautifully. As you can tell, you have the ability now to like chop down shrubbery or any kind of like grass or anything like that that's out in the field. So there's been a lot of different changes as well made to the environments, as well as being able to see the enemies actually out in the world rather than having random encounters now. And that's actually one of my complaints about this game. For some reason, I just really prefer the random encounters of Bravely Default, and I don't like seeing the sprites on the world map. But I understand why they did it. It's because these maps in this demo are really big, and without having the character models for the enemies in these areas, it would feel very empty. Call it being old school or just preferring the systems of the old games or whatever you want to call it, but for some reason I just really prefer being able to go into the menu and adjust the encounter rate based on if I want to end up farming enemies or if I just want to progress through the story at my own pace. But that's just something that I really miss from the original Bravely Default titles. Now very briefly talking about a menu again in this game, the actual party menu itself is really beautiful. I love what they did with the style of this, how everything's laid out in a book or on parchment and you have that like map in the background. It really makes you feel like you're on an adventure. You also get to see like your jobs reflected in real time as soon as you change between like black mage or white mage. It shows that physical representation of that job on your character, which is something that is in the other Bravely Default games as well. Also, whenever you equip a different weapon or a shield, again, that's also reflected on your character, and I love when games do that kind of stuff. Also, you can preview your abilities in the menu of this game before you unlock them, so it really helps with building your characters and actually being able to focus on what abilities you want to unlock first. So that's really nice that you actually get a description of each and every single ability, and everything's just laid out in a way that is really easy to navigate, so you never really feel like you're lost in these menus. Also, something I forgot to mention prior when I was talking about the battle in this game, the battle animations and the particle effects for certain abilities and everything are really nice. Some of them actually have like different camera angles that zoom in on the character before you use that ability, and it's really cool because that visual upgrade just makes it so much more engaging. Now moving on to something that may be a little bit divisive, but it ends up being my biggest complaint about this game's visuals. It's actually the cutscenes. For some reason, everything seems like it's filmed through a DSLR camera, and whenever a character is speaking, everything's really in focus on that character, and then everything else is blurred out behind them. And the motion blur when you're running around in the maps and everything can be very nauseating after looking at it for so long. For some reason, I don't know why, that just completely turns me off from the visuals when it comes to the cutscenes. And I hope that this is something that's adjusted, or something that we are given an option to adjust in the final game's release, but that's honestly my biggest complaint about the visuals. Now moving on to the sound in this game, everything sounds perfect. Revo did a stellar job again with the soundtrack. Everything that I've heard so far has been amazing. You get a little bit of like that Attack on Titan feel to some of the music in this game, and it's very welcome, honestly. Each and every single piece really fits the scenario. I love the sound in this game. The music goes without saying. It's just amazing, and it's gonna end up getting stuck in your head for a long time. Also, the sound effects on different like abilities and the actions and everything is just really crisp, and it has a great sound to it. I don't think anything needs to be adjusted in terms of the sound, outside of a little bit of the voice acting. Now, the voice acting for me, for the most part, is amazing. Everything is really perfect, with the exception of some lines of dialogue just never matching up with the character's mouth flaps, and I know that this is something that's plagued English localization for the most part in a lot of JRPGs, but it's apparent here again, and it's just something that is just a minor complaint on my part. And also there's that one character that has a very thick accent that just seems really out of place for whatever reason, but you know, that's neither here nor there. That's happened in other games as well, and it's something that I'm willing to look over in terms of the game's sound design. And lastly, we'll talk about the gameplay. I mean, there's not really a whole lot that needs to be said here. This is Bravely Default. All of the original systems are still left in the game, with the Brave and the Default system. Default allowing you to increase your defense for one turn and then gain an extra BP by doing so, as well as Brave expending that BP in order to take extra actions during that turn. Using Brave points that you currently don't have will result in you having to wait additional turns before you can act again. All the same Bravely Default stuff that we know and love. This is turn-based combat, so if you don't like traditional JRPGs, this is probably not going to be the game for you. There's no action combat involved in this, at least in this demo. I don't think we'll see that in the final version of this game, but it's very straightforward. You still have the ability to speed up and slow down the battle animations, and this is very useful for grinding. Almost all of the staples of Bravely Default combat system are present here again in this demo, and they're very much appreciated. These are things that we've become familiar with over the years, and it's very nice to see them again on a current generation console. There has been a removal of a certain feature, however, in combat that I would like to see implemented, and I'm not sure if it's going to be in the final release of the game or not, or if it's something that's just been adjusted for the demo. But currently in this build, there's no option for you to be able to send your own character to help a friend, or be able to call on a friend in order to help you out in battle as well. So that's something that I'm guessing we may see in the final release, but again, don't quote me on that. But that's pretty much going to do it for my first impressions of the Bravely Default 2 demo. I really have enjoyed my time with this demo, and I'm itching to get back in to see what else this game has to offer. However, we'll just have to wait and see if a lot of the things that I've mentioned in this video will get ironed out by the time that the final release of the game happens. So, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you guys want to really support me, head on over to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Gavin_Vengeance, where I'm currently streaming on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30 PM Eastern, mainly RPGs over on the channel. Links for everything are down in the description below, so I look forward to seeing you guys in the chat. Take care everyone, and I'll see you for the next one.